नव्याने गुंतणे वाटतो आता
That
वाटतो आता
And also, being
उंबऱ्याची
alive and living
चांदणा
this life is hard, you know.
उंबऱ्या
That's why
पाशी
we have a
उन्हाच्या
purpose to pray, to
चांदणा
believe in
but we
God.
don't need to last, the main thing is that we need to focus on our direction. Like we don't, and on destination we don't need to lose that. Like some people lost, their direction and their destination, like they lost their track and they go somewhere else.
Mm,
You got my point. Like some people they got atheists, some people they they got agnostic, like they have no belief on God.
why
So
then why you should be living? You could die easily and have a peace, right?
mhm.
Life is hard. Why you wanna study? Why you wanna do hard things? Why?
Because we know that life is a test.
No, I mean
For
for the
example,
non-believers one.
for non-believers there's also a test, for everyone. If he's a Muslim, if he's a non-Muslim, whatever is he, but his life is a test. He will face those kind of things, you know because God make this life like that. Everybody will shoot, like they will they come under the exam, like they come under the test. So God is seeing, watching everyone. If it's a non-believer, for example, if you see the non-believer, so they are accepting, they are coming to Islam. So
Mm,
those everything, like those, this life is a test. Simple as that. This old life, yeah. No matter if
exactly.
he's Hindu or Muslim.
That's why being believing in God give us purpose to live.
Yeah. And we should fight with devil. We know that devil is exist, bad thing is exist. So it's a
Mm,
kind of battle. Your life is you can say, you can consider as a war. You are in the war right now, like you are fighting with
yeah.
your nerves, with your like devil. So
Mm.
it's a kind of war. But some people they got success, some people they got fail.
You know the beautiful thing about Islam never let you question them that much. If you questioning something, you find the answer. Just search. Quran. Quran is a book. If you read
Mhm.
it every day, you cannot end it. There is too many lessons you can find in Quran.
Yeah, in Quran we have a lot of things, lot of things.
Too many lessons.
Mm. Yo, Raja, you want to say something?
Hello. Uh, sorry.
Yeah, yeah, welcome, man.
Sorry. You know what? People say that. Oh, sorry, the Christians say that it's the old covenant that there should be blood. A blood should be shed for the atonement for the sins, right? So
Mm.
it's actually emphasizing on the law of eye for an eye. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
actually emphasizing eye for an eye. So if the blood is shed, right, the consequences should be the blood should be shed. Right? If the blood is shed by death, the consequences is the blood should be shed by death. It's actually what it was emphasizing that, right? And the concept of animal sacrifice for the atonement for sins, talking about in the Old Testament, right? As said in the Leviticus, right? So over there, it was a specific period of time for the people of for the Jews, right? And it was only done in the temple of Solomon. right? And since it was destroyed, then since then the temple also is destroyed, Jews are not believing in that because that was the only place where God told, right? So if there is a blood sacrifice that should be done, it should be done in the temple of Solomon, right? So since it was broken, since it was destroyed, so they even stopped doing it. Even the Jews, you ask a Jew if you do any sin, right? So what do? They say that we ask for forgiveness, right? What about the sacrifice of the animal that was there in the Torah? They said that it was there, and it said that it should be done in the Temple of Solomon. Since that there is no Temple of Solomon, so this law has been abrogated, you can say. So that was it. And over the shedding of blood was actually a punishment. The shedding of animal blood, it was a punishment for the sin. So you did a sin, right? If you say that you're really sorry, then sacrifice something which is very close to you. Over then, by then, the animals was something was very close. The animal was the only property that back in those days people used to have. Right? That was very close to them. So it is very difficult for people back in those days to sacrifice the animal. Right? So it was asking you something very precious to you, something very important to you, and sacrifice it. Example, animals. It has nothing that no, there should be blood should be dripped because there is something ta'sir or something in there is in the blood that that will forgive your sin. No, it's not that. People have misunderstood the concept of the sacrifice. I'm talking about in the Christianity, right? And they have taken that concept and spread it so further wrongfully and putting it on Jesus that oh, there should be blood sacrifice, an innocent blood sacrifice, a human blood sacrifice, and they even take it to taken it to such an extent that and making them to do human sacrifice, Jesus, even though partial human, partial God, whatever, right? But still, he was also a human being. So they have taken this thing, they have stretched this thing to such an extent, right? They also, they included the human sacrifice, and this whole idea was right. The whole idea, about the animal sacrifice, sorry, there should be sacrifice, human sacrifice, and so it is a later on concept. Nobody even believed then. Back in those days, right? People used to believe in animal sacrifice, not a human sacrifice. And animal sacrifice for as something, a property, something precious that you should sacrifice it for you to be believed that yes, you have actually, you are actually feeling sorry for that. It was a proof. It was a token of proof that you are you're feeling sorry, right? And of course, who is Paul? It is more emphasizes by the Paul. Jesus actually come to sacrifice. You know, it was more emphasized on the Paul, right? By the Paul, and of course, him coming hit with this so much with this pagan background, right? Of course, you cannot believe it. Believe in, of course, you can say that he was one of the reason who put the pagan, the Roman or the Greek ideology in Christianity, who spread this ideology. He was actually looking for the bridge that to balance both the ideologies, to preserve the old by merging it into new. By merging it, you also preserve the old ideology. Right? And this you can see this in so many celebrations of the Christianity, the Christmas and the whole thing. So many things. The Halloween and all those things, it's one of the way that, to preserve, to keep that thing alive.
Yeah, maybe God is the answer.
Yeah. So, if you say that, in the Bible it's written that, Jesus came to sacrifice himself, God has sent his only son to sacrifice for the atonement of the human sin, right? Of course, I mean, it's correct. Christian scholars, not the Muslim scholars claiming it. Christian scholars claim this. Independent scholars claim this. The scholar who have actual knowledge about the comparison of the manuscripts, the present, the available Bible, the old Bible, and everything, who know about that, they came to this conclusion. They came to this. This is a conclusion that there's been so much changes and corruption
Yeah, yeah.
in the Bible.
But what, bro? Let me ask you one question. Okay, you just tell me that like God is sending a prophet from many generation, to guide humanity. So why he suddenly change himself? Like this is not possible. Like why God need to change himself and come in a human form? Like they have no answer about that. No answer about Christian. Like whenever I ask Christian that question, if God sending prophet from many generation to guide humanity, to guide humans, okay? So why he suddenly changed himself? Why he suddenly his nature? And there is no answer.
You know, even if you're talking about the original sin, right? So the sin that was being atoned, it was actually the original sin, right? So, but the time duration, the time duration doesn't do the justification for this argument. Jesus, who was, everything happened like 2,000 years ago, right? It
Hmm.
happens in 2,000 years, 2,000 years ago, and the original sin was, when the atom was created. Then, of course, it's been 2,000 years since, right? So, I mean, the
Yeah.
working and everything of the whole thing doesn't change, right? Human beings were same as 2,000 years old. How the human being were there, their nature and everything, their behavior is the same as it. Nothing has changed here, right? So this timeline seems very unusual. So
Uh-huh.
according, this is a highly, highly possibility that even the concept of the where there was this original sin and the sacrifice was made. Sacrifice could have made right now. Sacrifice could have made back in that time also. Sacrifice could have made like 10,000 years from now.
Yeah, man. God can
But
also come
still,
in right now. Why he just choose a specific time, for a specific
yeah,
for a specific like people? He can also come right now. Like if you see the world, what kind of sins is going on? What the people are doing. Like killing each other and those kind of thing. So why he's not coming right now? Why? He can also come in that time because he's a god. But he don't want. Because we know that life is a test. If you put that in Islam, in Islam perspective, so we know that life is a test, so that's why you don't want to come. And yeah, he will judge the people and the day of judgment, and
yeah.
and the basis of their deeds. So it makes sense. I don't know what the Christians are doing.
And you know what? I also mentioned this earlier, right? And what you bring, what people bring is like, okay, so God has, sent His only child to sacrifice for the sins of the human beings, to atone for the sins of human beings, right? So of course, I was quoting the same John 3:16, right? But
Okay.
exactly as I mentioned, as I said, right? So
Yeah, bro. Yeah,
Bible,
makes
the
sense.
current Bible is the product. Yeah, the
And
current Bible is the product of the corruption.
one
I
point,
mean, this is not what. Yeah.
I got you, brother.
Sorry.
One point I want to say, like we know that God sends so many prophets, and every prophet make a prophecy, and after that prophecy, like every prophet come and they fulfill this, and they preserve this prophecy. But no, no, like there is no prophet like he make a prophecy, even he says something like that, like God, the God I'm worshiping, he will come himself. You will never find those kind of things, in any book, in any scripture. Like even one prophet make a claim or something, he say God himself will come and he will sacrifice, he will sacrifice for the human.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so if Christian emphasis on this, that there must be the sacrifice, there must be the blood to be spilled. So why it also advocates that about forgiveness. Why they are not using that thing, right? It is actually a contradiction here.